Hey, what up, guys? Welcome to the new episode of my podcast. I have a cool, funny guest, Angelica. We met a couple years, comedy,
Yeah,
right?
through comedy. Yeah, through comedy.
Yeah. How's it going?
In general?
Yeah.
In general, it's going pretty good. Yeah.
Is this crisis been bothering you with your content, with your comedy?
This crisis is making me feel a lot less creative, unfortunately. So that's been my current struggle in terms of like actually producing anything. In terms of like sitting down and working on like the writing aspect of comedy has just been very difficult.
I would assume that like if you're not going out and you're not doing anything new, it's really hard to create content and to kind of write and like be very focused, right?
Yeah, it's mainly about the focus. Like I'll have fleeting thoughts and I'll write them down on my cell phone, like kind of like, oh, here's an idea, pursue it later, but then I never have the later part of like actually going back to it and like really playing with like what I want to say. But yeah, also, like not having too many experiences, because my comedy is, and I think most comedy is based on experiences.
Yes.
Social interaction, etc., and things happening to like people, and so like not having that opportunity, it's kind of hard to like keep pursuing it.
Keep doing it.
Yeah.
And so we met doing like comedy. Well, I did it for just a couple of times and I really liked it, but then I just felt like I wasn't that good, and I guess everyone feels that way. I just didn't pursue it enough, which I met a lot of people. I met a lot of cool people, and I met you, and I went to a couple of your shows and they were pretty fun. I really liked them. And when did you start doing comedy?
Probably like around 5 years. Been doing comedy for 5 years. And yeah, it started, I mean, I've always enjoyed comedy, stand up, watching stand up on Netflix, and then also Chicago, as you know, is very vibrant in the comedy scene. Like there's shows, well, there were shows happening almost every single day, and like just always things to check out. So I originally started by going to these shows, like, because I wanted to find stuff to do, and would see that there was a comedy show happening, and from there just started becoming a little bit more immersed in the shows that go on. And during one of those shows, it was the Cates. I don't know if you're familiar with the Cates.
Yeah, I think I heard it was like a couple of girls.
Yeah, so it's a showcase that highlights female identifying comedians. Okay. And they had shows every month at up in Lincoln Square at the Bookseller. It was a bookstore. Okay. So they would have shows there, and I would go see those shows. And then they also talked about how if you were having fun and saw what they were doing up there, that you could also take classes in stand-up, to like learn kind of like the basics of it. Yeah. So a friend of mine got me a class as a gift, which was really great. And from there, it was a fun experience. I also enjoyed it more because I felt more comfortable in a class full of other female identifying people. So it was just really nice. And then you have your little graduation show, your showcase. Oh, nice. So that was the first real experience that I had being on stage doing stand-up at my graduation show. And it's funny because I still have the DVD of that night.
Oh, we should check it out.
Oh, no.
You're like, no, not that.
No, my goodness. It was my first time doing stand-up,
I think we have all that.
Yeah, except mine was recorded. So.
Oh, yeah.
I do think about taking that DVD out and watching it.
By yourself at home?
By myself.
And then you're like,
just to like, because I remember some of the jokes that I had in that set, but like not fully. So I feel kind of like, where did it all start?
Yeah.
And I'm also, but I'm still not prepared to even watch it by myself because I feel like it's just going to be very cringe. I'm going to just cringe. I mean, the same way that like, even like in recent clips of my stand-up, I still have a hard time watching just because I don't like watching myself on camera. I don't like hearing my voice. But I watch those recent clips still because, you know, you could always learn from each performance. And I like listening to them because that way I could see like, oh, well, you know, like what jokes landed and like where was there something that could be fixed. Like you learn from it. You learn from it too. But at the same time, I just don't like watching myself on.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Like when I do like episodes here, and like I first of all, I don't really sometimes like my voice, and then like sometimes when I rewatch myself, I'm like, oh man, I look like this, or like, oh, I do this, or I wink too much, or I, you know, like I do weird stuff. So yeah, sometimes I guess once you get used to it little by little, you're like, okay, whatever. Like everyone's doing it. That's why I kind of push myself a little bit more where I see everyone doing it on Facebook and like they don't care.
Oh, so yeah, like Facebook Live.
Yeah.
I'm like, ugh.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, so if they don't care, they look like they just woke up. Might as well just, you know, just fix a little bit here and then we're just record it. And like I feel a little bit more comfortable doing it. But yeah, that especially if maybe back in the day you were a little bit shy and you know, I feel like how you started, it's pretty cool because I think you got more support on the group, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I think that was pretty cool because a lot of people, they go by themselves and if there's nobody really helping out, it's really hard. Yeah,
I mean, that was the awesome thing about the taking that class that I did, because they so I took it with my instructor was Kelsey Huff, who is pretty well known in Chicago for her comedy, and she was a great teacher, teaching us, you know, different joke structures, and then like it was a workshop setting basically, so you got to workshop your material with each other, which I'm used to workshop settings because I'm a writer as well, and so you know it's very like workshopping each other's pieces, so that was really nice to have that supportive environment where you could come up with an idea and then they could feedback like, oh, well, have you tried kind of moving this here, and it was a safe space, which when you're trying something new, especially something that puts you in a very vulnerable state, such as stand-up does, with your material and also being on stage in front of strangers, like that's it's a very vulnerable point, so it was nice to have that beginning support as well, because most people, like you said, like they just go to an open mic and test it out, and that idea frightened me a lot.
Well, because you're out there talking to random people or giving, you know, your comedy to random people, and you don't know if they're gonna, you know, take it in as a good way or you don't know how they're gonna react, right? But how you did it, they give you feedback right there in a constructive way. So it's just like, oh, okay, I didn't see this. Now that you told me, maybe I could fix it. And all that.
And especially because when you think about stand-up, like writing for stand-up comedy, a lot of it is very isolating because it's just you, it's your material, you know, versus like sketch writing where you have kind of a group of writers and you're working all together, bouncing ideas, or even just like other types, like comedic film writing, you still have like people that you could like work with, workshop scripts. Exchange. But when it comes to stand-up, it's really, you just work by yourself and then you go to an open mic and you test it out, and it could go well, it could go bad. So it is a very isolating thing, and I appreciate that the Kates offered that class through Feminine Comique as well. So like, and then I know that like I seen on your Facebook that you do like improv too. How'd that start? Did it connect with the comedy that you were doing, or how? It was a different avenue because I've been doing improv now probably for maybe 2 years. I think I'm really bad with time, but I think it's been 2 years.
1998. That's
yeah. Yeah, I was a wee lad. No, because I did improv in high school, but did I really? I don't think I did. I was super shy. I barely said anything. I barely did anything. I thought improv looked cool. Yeah. All the cool kids were doing it, and I was like, sure, why not? But yeah, so I didn't really get into it until an adult, and probably the last 2 years. And similarly, well, with improv, you really do typically start, by like learning about it. So I started with I started taking classes at Comedy Sports Theater here in Chicago.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, they do short form improv, which is mainly what I've been doing instead of long form. But it was cool because I really ended up forming a bond with the other people that took that class. Because it was just like beginner improv for like people that have never maybe done it before or weren't pursuing it, on a serious level. But I bonded with them. I met some really great friends through it, and we decided to just keep signing up for each next class, and it just kept building up. And through it, I really enjoyed the bond I was forming with people and also what I was getting out of it too. Because like I said, stand-up is very isolating.
Yes.
And so improv really moves a different part of your comedic chops.
Yeah.
It teaches you other things. And I think what helped was that because I had also been doing stand-up, I was able to connect the two and use a lot of the same tools, like stage presence, especially, where in stand-up, because it's you by yourself, you really have to learn how to be up there.
Yes.
But yeah, so I've been doing that. And then, I ended up on last year I was on a house team at Comedy Sports too. So it's basically you just, get a lot more performing experience. And then this past year before COVID, I'd gotten into one of their teams for their rec league as well, which was really fun to keep exploring short form improv. And then, COVID happened.
Yeah. So it's crazy that you were doing really good and you were going to developing that thing that you were like, I feel comfortable.
I was feeling myself.
Yeah. You I feel like a lot of people were doing a lot of cool stuff. Yeah. And then all of a sudden this happens and it hits like the emergency brake, and everyone's just like, what?
You really hit a wall, because especially for performers, like other performers that I know, both who are stand-up comedians and also who are improvisers, you go from like basically being out almost every single night doing either open mics or doing performances, or doing rehearsals with your team, and then this where it really is, you hit a wall because you're so used to like, all right, I'm gonna be doing this and that, and you feel like you're working towards that thing that you want. Whatever your goal is in performing, you're working towards that, and now it's kind of like you're not able to keep moving forward. So what do you do? Like, I remember in March, I think, because I was focusing a couple of months a lot on improv, and I wanted to really like dedicate more time again to stand-up. So in March, I was booked for about 4 shows in stand-up, and so I was like, this is it. I'm gonna get back into the stand-up game, and then that's when a lot more stuff started to surface here, especially about COVID and possible stay-at-home orders, and people just, obviously wanting to take their safety seriously. And so it also felt selfish to be kind of like, man, this sucks. But also, it's okay to like mourn that these opportunities didn't happen. So it's just been an interesting transition. Yeah,
I think like it develops that, like you said, before all this, you would go out without like doubting yourself, because I'm gonna go out and do improv or do comedy or do anything, and there was no restrictions, right? And even if you didn't do those 2 things, you would go out, have fun, and maybe collect experiences, right? Where you could write about or whatever. But now with this, yeah, I feel like the second week of March, that's when I panic a little bit. I got into like a panic mode where I'm like, oh my god, the economy is gonna get destroyed. You know, how are we gonna be living if people are not going out? Money's not going to go around, so that means a lot of businesses are going to close. And then I just start freaking out a lot, and then I think like 3 days in a row, and then after that I'm like, you know what, like everyone's going through this, the whole world's going through this, so I guess we're just going to have to go little by little and just, you know, not even like big corporations can do anything about it, so it's just, you know, you just gotta go little by little. But you know, it's been how many weeks? 8, maybe 8 or 9, or I don't know.
What is time?
March? Yeah, right.
Yeah, because the first day at home order began in March, right? Yeah, mid-March.
Yeah, so it's a little bit weird, but I guess so. I feel like what's gonna happen in the future, right? How's this gonna work, especially like comedy or, you know, venues?
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, one, because you also have to ask yourself like what places are gonna make it, unfortunately, because you know, a lot of like bars where you would see open mics or something, you know, like how much resources do they have to make it through this? And it's unfortunate. So I wonder about, you know, what places will still be open where this could continue, first of all, especially because there's been so many businesses like bars and bookstores and venues that have been very supportive of comedy throughout the years. So I wonder how that's going to look like. I also wonder in general, like, you know, how do you get an audience? What sort of safety precautions are you taking for your performers and for your audience? Yeah, because you know, like, I mean, you've been to some of the theaters that have improv and like stand up, like they are packed. Yeah, like it's tables and like there's a chair right next to you, and the chair like it's packed. So how does it look realistically in the future? And also, just all of that. Yeah,
I think like even like, let's say if you go out just to go to a comedy show, like people are sitting next to each other, they're ordering drinks, and if you got a mask, it's just gonna be weird. And like maybe as a comedian, you know, you're gonna be very like, wait, what's going on? Like you're not gonna be yourself because it's just gonna be weird.
Well, and also right? like, you know, that microphone gets passed around by everyone.
Yeah, that is crazy, because now you're gonna have to be very careful on everything, right? You know, you can clean the mic wherever you sit,
definitely.
You know, whatever you drink, you know, those.
I mean, it's really gonna change, I think, how we experience things, because we don't know what it's going to look like. We don't know when there will be treatment or a vaccine or anything for it too, or and also even once there is, you know, there's going to be people that aren't going to want to get vaccinated. So.
There's a lot of people that, you know, I'm just seeing a lot of people on Facebook where there's like, oh, you know, what's his name, Bill Gates. You know, they're conspiracy theories again. I'm like, really, bro? Like, like, he has donated so much money, so like millions of dollars for research, and he's like put himself out there. He doesn't have to. He could be just chilling on a private island and he'll be good, right? But he's pushing himself to do better for the world, and then people out there are really like give him. And then not even that, like corporations that are doing evil stuff, they're not like getting put it out there. They're nobody's talking about them, which that's crazy to me. Like they're just putting Bill Gates or people that are kind of famous. They're trying to do good, and you're like, man. Sometimes I just like, really, bro. I
think it's just super easy for people to believe conspiracy theories. Like, you know, like, because I've seen people share a lot of stuff right now on social media, and I think conspiracy theories give them some level of comfort, because it's like, oh, here's this thing that we have no control over right now, which is frightening, you know? So when you start seeing these videos or articles that clearly are about conspiracy theories, it's easy for people to like cling on to them.
Them.
Yeah, because they're like, oh, okay, this gives me comfort right now because I don't have any control over this, but this is telling me that, like, oh, like, you know, this was all planned, or like, etc.
5G.
Yeah. The 5G. Yeah. The fact that my mom asked me, like, do I know anything about 5G? I'm like, we're not gonna have this conversation right now, please.
It's so weird that people are not focused on the things they are supposed to focus. Like I was listening to like maybe we should be more occupied on our health, and you know, maybe take more vitamins, eat better, sleep better. You know, be focused on the things that we could control and not the things that we cannot.
Yeah, which is why I don't understand the people that are protesting safety measures, because it's like, these are things that you could be controlling right now. Like, wear masks. Like, it's not the end of the world if you wear a mask.
No,
like,
it's not.
Do it for the sake of other people.
Yeah,
you know, like, even if you don't, like, even if you at your core are like, masks don't do anything, do it for other people, because other people are taking it seriously, and the least you could do is put on a mask when you go outside. Like,
that's it. You don't have to do a lot.
Wash your hands.
It's not like you're gonna be doing extra hours on certain other things where you're like, man, I gotta do this to help the world. No, you just gotta wear a mask. Wear gloves.
If you're going to the grocery store, just wear a mask.
Yeah,
like, you're not. People are acting like, oh, you know, like, people are like, oh, but like wearing a mask for a really long time. It's like, unless you are an essential worker, if you're just going to the grocery store to run your errands or going to take a walk around the block, you're not wearing that mask for a long time. Yeah. Like, you just use
20,
it.
30 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if you have a car, once you get in your car, take it off. Like, you're fine.
You'll be good.
Like, but like, I just don't understand why people are just really adamant about not just, you know, these measures are for their own public health. Like,
and especially when we're mostly surrounded by, like, we live in a city, in a big city where everyone has to see each other somehow, because we're not in the suburbs, we're not like outside the city.
It's not spaced out. I mean, you walk outside and there's just everybody.
Like I you know, I wear a mask and stuff. I try my best not to freak out. But you gotta improvise and compromise. Is that the word?
Compromise.
Compromise.
Yeah. Like, I mean, like, I went to the laundromat this past week because I don't have laundry in my unit.
And
too. Like, you know, you wear your mask and you respect other people's spaces. Like, it's there's certain things that you could focus on. Like, oh gosh, we're all sharing the same counter space technically, but at the same time, like, you just go in there.
Yeah.
Don't stay longer than you have to.
I still don't understand the people that are protesting. Well, I mean, look, I'm very neutral on both sides. I do understand, like, the health side where you have to, you know, stay at home. Don't go as much as outside if you don't need to, because, you know, you're not spraying it, right? But at the same time, I do understand the other side where it's like, man, if you own a business and a house and you got 4 or 5 family members that are not working, and you got to pay the bills, you got to pay the mortgage, you got to pay the employees, you got to do all this. Like, I do understand people are trying to open their business so they could.
No, I understand that too. It's just like, I think a lot of, like, the protesters that you see though are not necessarily, like, coming at it from that standpoint, you know, like, because instead of protesting in large volumes like they have, which also is counterintuitive, like, they should instead be focusing on, like, well, what can we demand more in terms of, like, relief packages? Like, can we change legislation so that, like, we have, like, mortgage relief for, like, you know, businesses, or, like, that way we can have rental relief. Like, there's other tools that we could be demanding for instead of just, like, open everything up. Like,
I need my hair cut. I'm
you
like,
don't need
really,
a haircut.
Really?
Like, yeah.
I do feel at times that people, like, the government or you know the governors and mayors, they have to be very descriptive of what we could do and what we can't, because there's other people out there that are really not that smart, and then they do like the weirdest stuff, and that's why you kind of see like the policies of like what could we do or where could we go or not, because certain people are really like not as, I don't know.
Well, I think part of it is that like the fact that we've never experienced anything like this before. True. You know, so I think common sense is difficult in times like this, because it's like, well, we've never experienced anything like this before. So you have people that, you know, like I remember when the stay-at-home order was first going to be announced, like people thought that, you know, there were a lot of people that were throwing the term militia. What was it? Martial law? Yeah, martial law. Yeah. See, I'm not that smart sometimes. But there were a lot of people that were throwing like the term martial law, like, oh, we're going to go into martial law. Like, you know, Pritzker is going to like have us
take
like
our guns.
Yeah. And I was like, well, why don't, like, my whole thing when people were panicking about that was like, well, why don't we just kind of wait and see what gets announced before we throw around all these like panic terms. And like, so like, you know, people thought like, oh, we won't be able to like go outside, and it's like, no, you can still go to the grocery store, like you can still go to the laundromat, you can still go to the pharmacy,
you can still go outside,
you could
don't go too much,
like you could still go outside, you could still sit on your porch, like, but like you said, like I think like our officials really have to like say exactly like what you can do, because otherwise people think that like, oh, you can't do this, like there's like kind of like a conspiracy where it's like, is the whole government, you know, trying to, you know, provoke this? And I'm like, why would the whole government want to close all their business and lose all this money for people, you know, in order for the government to control everybody? Like, I don't think so. Like, that would be too much of a conspiracy where it's like, you know, I think they just don't know what to do, and they're in the middle of, should we reopen? But a lot of people are gonna have you know, are gonna test positive on COVID, or are we gonna shut down everything and wait? But then again, everyone's gonna lose a lot of money and stuff, so they're in the middle of it, and it's hard. I wouldn't want to be on that position of taking that choice, because it's a hard one. I mean, especially I think it's hard too, just because of the amount of misinformation that is on the internet. And the fact that the internet helps misinformation spread too, you know, sad. Because I think that's why, like, there's a lot of people, because people are scared, and sometimes people get angry for being scared. And that's where I think you have, like, the people that are like, well, the government's taking too much control right now. And I'm like, I don't... It's
like, I think, I mean, you know, I'm very neutral on things. But, it's it's, you know, nobody really knows what's going to happen in a few days. So I think you just gotta. I stay calm by listening to. I was telling you earlier that I listen to a lot of NPR when I'm not doing anything. I just turn on the radio, listen to NPR. I walk around. I bike around. I eat more. I used to not eat as much. Like, I eat normal, but now I'm eating like left and right. So I start exercising a little bit more. So just focusing and just putting my mind into more things that I could do better, and start like more hobbies where you could be like, oh, okay, like I could do this and that, instead of like worrying about what's gonna happen tomorrow, or worrying if is the end of the world. But no,
it's hard when you start worrying about
things that you cannot control.
Especially right now, because like we don't know what's gonna happen. You know, it's hard to like make plans, or even think like, oh, like even if you say like, oh, well, once there's a vaccine, well, we still don't know what that's going to look like. You know, even once there is a vaccine, like, I don't know what our day-to-day life is going to look like. And that's why, too, like, I'm just taking every day at a time. Like you said, I have 2 dogs, so I walk them. We go around the block. I live by a park, and that park doesn't get crowded right now. Like, people where I live are really kind of, like, practicing that social distancing. And So the park is pretty open.
Yeah. I mean, those are the cool things that you could do. And in the future, it's going to be weird. Yeah. Reopening bars, reopening places where you could do your comedy or improv is going to be strange at first, but then people are going to get used to it. And maybe once maybe I would say next year it's going to get a little bit better. And, I think, I mean, personally, I think that this year it's not going to be the same as the average.
Definitely not. No.
So you're just going to have to deal with it.
Also, if you told me that bars were open, I still wouldn't go.
Yeah, right? I recently stopped drinking, meaning like I don't drink as much and I feel much better. It's been like maybe like almost 2 months where if I drink, I only drink like a beer and then that's it, or wine, or just a glass of wine and then that's it. So I like if the only reason I used to go out a lot is because I wanted to network and talk to people, socializing. Yeah. But now I'm like, all right, maybe I should just focus on other things, and maybe next year, because festivals are canceled, all these things that were gonna happen this year, concerts, festivals. Yeah. Are canceled, so let's put our mind and put our in a way where we could do other things, right? What are your plans, for this year? Or
my plans for this year, I should really get writing again, at least. I definitely want to focus on writing, I think, because of the lack of performing at the moment. And I know there's virtual shows happening. Like I've seen a lot of like virtual improv shows.
Yes.
And as an audience member, I enjoy them. Not to plug Comedy Sports, but I'm going to plug them. Comedy Sports, their format of short form improv, because they have teams at their regular performances, translates pretty well virtually because it's still kind of like team versus team. Okay. There are still like areas like, like technical difficulties, and even just the fact that like when you perform virtually, you can't really hear your audience. You can't see your audience. And on Zoom, like, there's that chat feature where you can see like people write and stuff, but if you're performing, you can't also be like trying to read what's on that chat, and then I've also seen some improv shows through Second City virtually, and those were also pretty interesting, but again, it's just there's that disconnect, I think, still. And maybe as time goes on, like maybe as this year goes on, we'll see how much further virtual shows could develop, what tools. Maybe there will be like, because I think right now everyone's relying on Zoom, but maybe there'll be like other platforms that are more
audience based.
Yes, maybe more audience based, maybe. Which I think would be the time to like look into those options. If any developers,
that would be pretty interesting. Because it the sky is the limit, or something? Where you could develop a program where they could see you and they at least you could hear them voices. And oh shit, my alarm, I gotta wake up.
Waking up at what time is it? 1:47.
Right in the middle of podcast, right? Let me wake up. But I think like it'll be a pretty cool where you could develop a program where it's more interaction between an audience and yourself.
Especially because Zoom, I don't know what Zoom was originally developed for, but I think it's been more used in like classrooms and like businesses, meetings.
It was more
not necessarily like performances. I'm interested to see like if there's going to be other platforms, or if there are already other platforms that maybe we don't know that much about, that take into account more interaction without also letting it get in the way of like the show as well. I think we're gonna do good. A lot of new stuff is gonna come up. A lot of not so good stuff is just gonna stay behind, and I think the best thing we could do is just go and just do your thing, right? And don't stress out. I think talk to people, and just chill. I think
I know for sure once the weather gets nicer, people are gonna come out. Just wear a mask. Just be careful, and we're gonna be good.
And also, if you don't feel comfortable going out,
yeah, then don't go out. Yeah. And
also, just if you see people with masks, don't
freak out.
Don't tell them that they don't need to wear a mask. Just
yeah. So where could we follow you, or
I'm on all of the social medias, I believe.
Oh, okay, cool. You got LinkedIn, you got MySpace, you got
MySpace.
What was the old one before MySpace?
Do you remember High Five?
Yeah.
That was old.
I only did I had a profile there, but I think I never really got in.
It was.
You know which one? Mi Gente. I never
used Mi Gente,
but I remember hearing people like, "Oh yeah, you got Mi Gente." I'm like, "Wait, what the hell is that?"
No, but MySpace. Yeah, I think I deleted my MySpace a few years ago. Actually went in there to just eliminate this.
That music in the background and stuff, the glitter in the voice.
No. But yeah, I'm my handle is the same on all of my social media.
Okay. That's smart. That's smart.
So on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, which I'm still figuring out.
Oh snap! TikTok famous.
Is Pancho Piggy Tron.
Okay, I'll write it down there in the description so they can follow you. They can see your cool material, and hopefully.
I post a lot of memes also.
Oh, there you go. Boom. Yeah, well, that's the cool part, that we need memes.
Yeah, memes.
We need to laugh at times.
I log on to Facebook just to look at the memes right now.
Yeah, I think I'll do the same. All right, well, I'm glad that you came in. We had a good talk, and we hit some good points, and maybe next time when we see each other again, maybe we could see each other you doing comedy on a place, so we could feel normal again, right?
One could hope.
All right, well, thanks for watching. Hopefully I'll make another episode sooner, because I was lazy and I was not doing anything, and I was just staying at home watching Netflix and just
what
eating,
you're supposed to do.
But yeah, we'll see each other again soon. All right, take care, guys. Be safe out there. Peace.